Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name's Jen Turnbull. I'm the team lead for customer success here at LifeRaft, and I'm joined by my colleague Eric Destad, where we're excited to host today's security spotlight, Bluesky Insights for Security Teams. Before we kick it off, I'm going to pass it on over to Eric to introduce himself.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm Eric Distad. I'm a member of LifeRaft's product specialist team, and I come to the team with a background in OSINT investigation.
Fantastic. Thanks, Eric. So to set the stage, we're going to be exploring Bluesky, a rapidly growing social media platform that is changing the landscape for security teams. So we're going to begin with a quick overview of what Bluesky is and how it differs from other social media platforms. We'll move into why it matters for security teams and how to integrate it into your workflows. And finally, we'll share a few recommendations for applying these insights to your own monitoring. So by the end of this session, you should have a clear understanding of what Bluesky is and how your team can leverage it to stay ahead of emerging risks. So if you're not familiar with Bluesky, it's an open source microblogging platform. And it's co-founded by, or it is founded by Jack Dorsey. So if that name is familiar to you, it's because it's the co-founder of Twitter. So think of it as a mid-tier mainstream adjacent to X. It feels a lot like the early days of X. And if we'll move forward in slides here as we have a couple screenshots here in that it has a scrolling vertical timeline of short posts. So we can see up to 300 characters in it. Users can repost, quote, follow, and also be followed. And also it's conversational. So it's open and it's very community driven. And I believe we have one more screenshot as well.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of what sets it apart, Bluesky's core AT protocol is decentralized. So it's basically an open source federated network. Next slide. Where we have this opportunity where you have these individual communities that are sharing resources and sharing information so that anyone can host a server or create a feed or participate in the moderation. Now, users of Bluesky subscribe to topic-based algorithmic feeds. And by participating in moderation, moderation works because there's a core protocol that has basic security tools. But basically on top of that, there are community standards and moderation filters. And one type of filter that way is labels. So labels are annotations on users and content, and they can be used to hide or warn or categorize a network. So basically at a core level, you have Bluesky's own moderation hard-coded as labels into the system. But stacked on top of that, you have the labels that are generated and created by the community labelers, those that create the feeds and those who put that together. So that's one thing that you'll see that helps it stand apart. One of the other things you'll see when you start to explore Bluesky is that you're going to see a lot of these different top-level domains attached to usernames. So you might see a username that's ending in .app or .social or .dev. You might even see them ending in .com. And the way that works is that you'll have brands that have their domains, their portable domains, and they'll come over to Bluesky and get those verified so that they can have their .com there on Bluesky. And that's one form of verification. Think about it in comparison to X, where someone can have paid verification, where they pay for X premium, they get that blue badge. Well, this is a different style. You don't pay for it, but you can verify it, giving your users a bit more confidence that it's your account that they're looking at and not someone who is participating in imposter activity, something we'll talk about a little bit more later in this presentation.
Fantastic. Amazing. Thank you so much for the insights. And we'll move on over to the next slide where we talk about really one of the primary stories of Bluesky is truly the explosive growth since its launch in 2023. And we saw this particularly leading into the 2024 US presidential cycle. So a couple of stats that we pulled on this. So Bluesky had 47% growth in 1 year, over 38 million registered users, over 1.9 billion posts, and 4.1 million daily active users.
Absolutely. And a big part of the story of how that happened and why it happened was that in 2024, there was a big migration away from X. So you had a time period where there were a lot of outages and bugs. There was a proliferation of far-right content. you found that there was a withdrawal of news outlets and journalists and artists and tech workers and certain progressive communities away from the platform. And this included a lot of professional communities as well. I mean, think about security and especially like the OSINT community. Many individual instructors and analysts migrated away from X and found their home on Bluesky. And it's interesting because Bluesky has these things called starter packs. So you can search and you can find a grouping of professionals or people that you're interested in, and you can follow them, all at once. And there's some very great starter packs out there for OSINT on Bluesky.
Amazing. And yeah, the what of the stats is so interesting, but the why is so critically important to that as well. And at its core, Bluesky is truly being used like any other microblogging platform. People are sharing their opinions and they're sharing their updates. But what we find is different about OSINT or what's different about Bluesky is the concentration of those politically charged discussions. We're seeing people organizing, expressing dissent, and really mobilizing around protest activity in response to rising authoritarian shifts in government. So this is where we see the platform becoming more relevant for security teams.
Absolutely. Next slide. So much of the importance of monitoring Bluesky is because these high-risk actors are diversifying to new platforms. And at the heart of everything, as a security team or as an OSINT analyst, you want to keep people and assets safe. So you want to have that situational awareness around areas in which protesters and counter-protesters may clash. You want to pick up on any expressions of online threats toward executives and administrators and the general public. And you have investigative needs. So if you've identified a person of interest or a group of interest, you want to be able to know more about their online footprint and resolve some of their identities to further your investigation. And, we were talking earlier about Bluesky being decentralized, and that gives it a bit of a character as well. It's community driven in many ways, more so than some platforms that are more mass media driven. So you have the potential as an analyst or as a security officer to get valuable insights into specific online communities, their communication, and the ways that they moderate themselves. Next slide.
Perfect. And yeah, that really ties into the classic concern that we hear for security professionals. It's not the threats that you know that keep you up at night, it's the threats that you don't know. So this really sets us up so nicely is how do we actually integrate Bluesky into our OSINT workflows?
I really like that distinction. It's very important. Regarding the threats, we can utilize LifeRaft to follow those known accounts and capture each of their posts going forward. You can be alerted to any mentions that they have of protected parties and assets that you're protecting. LifeRaft will also allow you to review captured posts, assign a risk level, and then share this information with team members or stakeholders. And then finally, our platform capabilities allow coverage across the entire online footprint of a person of interest or a group of interest. And you can examine that communication that they have with other nefarious actors to start following those other actors as well to paint a more complete picture. Now, for the threats you don't know, you have the ability within LifeRaft to monitor for threatening posts against protected parties and assets using our social listening functionality. You can also look at things from our brand or executive platform vulnerability standpoint, looking at who on Bluesky is mentioning your brand, mentioning your executives, and what is the potential there for imposter activity. I mean, Bluesky, a lot of growth in 2023 and 2024, but a relatively new platform in the scheme of things. And nefarious actors know this. So sometimes when they know a company, a celebrity, hasn't migrated over to Bluesky, they might set up a username, a display name as an imposter to really try to capitalize on that. So all the more reason, of course, to take your brand, to take your domain and verify over at Bluesky. But everything, the Bluesky monitoring can also be used in combination with LifeRaft's ability to have automated investigative accelerators, such as our people search, aggregating an online social media footprint, doing an open source background check, and then with your findings, organizing that information. But one of the other pieces I mentioned was also resolving identities, and the public records can be used to help verify that information and really further that cause. Next slide.
Perfect. So I think that sets us up for so many good points going forward. But really, Eric, what should security teams be doing right now?
Well, there's a few things that we would recommend, right away. Of course, one I just spoke to, registering your organization's domain and official handles early so that you can avoid that imposter activity. Enhanced monitoring. So LifeRaft, you can set up advanced social listening and custom feed alerts for your brands, your assets, your locations, and executive names. But you also will want to be combining data from Bluesky with your other social media intelligence and dark web and news sources for an all-around holistic threat visibility. And then finally, an important piece is regularly auditing and updating your threat monitoring protocols to make sure that they include Bluesky specific risks and workflows. Next slide.
Perfect. And I think we're all curious your thoughts here, Eric. So for the future, what's next for Bluesky?
So to kind of predict where Bluesky is going, it's probably important to look at where Bluesky has been. So, we were talking about 2023, especially 2024, where there was this surge in mainstream visibility with Bluesky related to migration away from X and the 2024 presidential election. Yet, the pace of new downloads has slowed down. The daily active users has begun to level out. Yet, demographically, it's popular with a younger demographic, as well as you mentioned, those individuals who are mobilizing their voices against recent authoritarian shifts in government. So there really is this potential for upcoming surges in Bluesky activity around things like upcoming protests, like the No Kings protest here on October 18th, that's going to be happening nationwide. Response to government decisions, you might see more participation, and things like upcoming elections as well, such as the 2026 midterm elections. Next slide.
Perfect. This is such a fantastic example of what we can see.
Absolutely. Next slide.
Beautiful. So in short, Bluesky isn't just another social app. It's growing, it's open, it's dynamic. It's an incredible space for conversations, but also we're seeing mobilization, and we're seeing a lot of conversations that are shifting towards Bluesky, which makes it so imperative for intelligence collection. I think now we'll open it up for some Q&A. Okay, I see in the chat. Thanks, Beverly. So how does content moderation and reporting work on Bluesky compared to legacy platforms like Twitter or Facebook?
Absolutely. I would say that Bluesky has much more community-oriented moderation in the sense that it's less driven from the top. There is a level of that in the sense that some of that moderation with those labels in particular is hard-coded into the system. But there's opportunities for people that are creating servers and making those algorithmic feeds and participating in those communities to have their labels and their information influence those warnings or what's hidden or what's removed from the platform. So I think there's a more community-driven flavor there.
Incredible. Amazing.
Oh, I see a new question.
Oh, perfect.
What are the best, oh, go ahead, you can read it.
What are the best methods for tracking threat actors moving between Bluesky and other social media networks?
So there's a few places that you're going to want to look. In regard to Bluesky or any social media for that matter, you're examining accounts of persons of interest or groups of interest and looking in the bios of those accounts. Sometimes you can find links to accounts that in LifeRaft, you can follow those accounts and track and capture each of their posts going forward. But there's another way of tracking it as well. Of course, the username. I was talking about those individualized usernames that are in Bluesky. You'd be able to utilize those in a LifeRaft people search to locate and verify other parts of that person of interest's online footprint. But along with the bio, along with the username, what they're posting, that unique language that they're posting in those posts, you can use our social listening functionality to watch for that language across many, many different social media platforms, and then locate those accounts that, despite the fact that they might be using a different username or might be using a different display name, or end up inevitably through investigation tied to the same person of interest.
Fantastic. Okay, we have another one here. What early warning signs should security teams watch for in Bluesky that might indicate emerging threats to organizations or individuals?
So in terms of early warning signs that you can see online and see in those posts, one thing to watch out for is grievances, right? So sometimes these things start off smaller. I know in our last session that we had regarding workplace violence, absolutely a topic there where these grievances can grow into a larger threat or inevitably pose a threat, physical threat or an asset threat. So part of it is watching for grievances. Part of it is watching for references to company locations or physical addresses or facilities. But it's also watching for references to individual persons or administrators, and especially not just their name and title, but their personally identifying information that you usually wouldn't expect to be seen online. So, I mean, the good news is with LifeRaft, you can track that information, looking for references, tracking and monitoring references to facilities, to personally identifying information. So you can pick up on this early and proactively approach this issue rather than reactively.
Incredible. Amazing. Pause for any other questions. All right. Doesn't look like any more questions right now. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Before we close, a quick reminder, at the end of this session, you'll see a QR code come on the screen that you can scan and download our latest white paper, Mitigating Misinformation with OSINT. And be sure to join us for our next Security Spotlight on November 13th at 12:30 Eastern, where we'll be discussing strategies for securing major sporting events. Thanks again for joining today, and we'll see you next time.